Welcome back to the War Room. This is Jack Maxey sitting in the captain's seat today. This is August the 1st, year of our Lord 2020. This is another one of our special Saturday episodes, Voices of China. Today's episode called New Federal State of China Confronts CCP Across the Globe. We're going to be right back with one of our guests just after we hear from Stephen Bannon.
Jack, I know your guest talked about, she's from Houston. She was down there at the consulate the other day. As I toss it back to you, you guys got to remember that consulate was a nest of spies and hackers. It's one of the reasons that people are thinking the Chinese Communist Party has been trying to hack in to the Anderson Center and other great medical centers down in Houston to try to get information related to the vaccine. And so you cannot trust the Chinese Communist Party any way, shape, or form. And we're here to show you Chinese pages of a new rising China that are out there, and they don't care. They're not going to back up. They're not going to give up. They're not going to back down. They're going to take on the CCP. Jack, back to you in the studio.
Well, Wenmu, we just cut off, and we talked earlier before the show. And one of the things that really struck me was when you told me that one of the reasons this is so personally necessary for you is because you want to show your children that your mom is a morally strong person and is willing to stand up for what's right. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Oh, yes. Thank you, Jack. So when I raise my child or with any children, I always think the most important thing is we have to teach him that everybody's voice counts. We are living in the United States. The greatest thing about this country is it can tolerate all kinds of voice. We won't be disappearing simply because our voice is different from main media's voice. And I want my child to know that. If he disagrees with me, for example, he can speak up too. He has to learn this. And the second thing I think is very important is I always tell him that if something is precious to you, he is too young to understand what's a dream, but he understands what's precious. He understands, for example, I'm precious, Dad is precious, some toy is precious, something is precious. He understands those, and he knows that. I want him to know that if you wanted to defend these precious things, you have to act it out. You have to show people you care about it. You have to show people. And with voice, with actions, and the most important thing, number 3 thing is you need to know whether what you say or what you do can benefit to others, can benefit to the society. Like wearing mask is not the most comfortable thing. I agree as a mother, but he has been wearing mask since February. And he had never, ever even questioned. He knows wearing mask is put the person next to him comfortable. It's to not, if he is affected, if there's a virus in him, he won't get people around him affected. And he loved the friends around him. He loved the adults around him. He needed to go out to protect others. So this is how your words, your actions need to benefit to others, to the society, and you can go live in this happy society. I was afraid too. I'm sure other protesters, we have 55 of us. Most of us all have other jobs, and we are not professional protesters or media. We're not. We're all volunteers. We're all afraid, but we know behind us is a brighter future. We have to defend. If we don't get our voice out, who is going to protect our freedom, our life, and our future, and let alone our children's future? Who is going to defend them?
Wenmu, we're going to have to take a little break here, but I got to tell you, you were amazing. You say it so clean and so straight. This is exactly what it is. We need to show the world what Chinese people are like, and you are a perfect example. Here you are, a great mom, raising your children with perfect values, and this is the character of the Lao Baiqing. This is who they are. This is who the deplorables are, and I can't tell you, your courage is inspiring to everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And our next guest here is going to be Ponsan, who is calling in from Sydney, Australia. This is to show the people of planet Earth that this is a planetary movement to free the people of China and to make a better, more prosperous world where we can all live together in peace. Okay, so we're very pleased to bring Ponsan on as usual. This is a pseudonym, but Ponsan is a management consultant. He's lived in Sydney, Australia for 10 years. And I'm going to ask him a couple questions that'll try and let people know what's been inspiring to him. Ponsan, thank you so much for being with us.
Hello, Jay. Great speaking to you.
Yeah, now, for the audience, just so you know, it's about 5 a.m, Sydney, Australia time. So just as a measure of commitment. Now, when I spoke to Ponsan earlier today, one of the things that he said that was really impactful to me was that he said he's basically been brooding over this ever since the kids got murdered at Tiananmen Square. That this is something that's been in his craw ever since he was in high school. And just this week, Ponsan, along with other Chinese people and Australian citizens, he got his courage up and he went out and protested in front of the consulate in Sydney. You want to tell us a little bit about that, Ponsan?
Yes, Jack. As you just mentioned, when in 1989, when the Tiananmen massacre happened, I was in high school. I think that is so vivid memory. I've been waiting for my life for a whistleblower movement like this. And 3 years passed. I'm proud that I'm part of this. I can take to the street with the other Chinese patriots. We can protest. We can let the Aussies know that the CCP lied, the Aussies died. And the whole world deserves to know the truth, and someone has to speak up.
I mean, think about that, people. This guy's been sitting around since 1998 with this anger in his heart and this desire to liberate his country. And now he's able to do it. And you know why he's able to do it? Because there is courage in numbers, people. We are all on the same team to break down the CCP. Ponsan, I mean, to me, that's just an incredible thing to be sitting there with having this in your heart for 22 years and finally being able to get it off your chest. It's inspiring.
Yes, if I may add something, because on a day we have about 100 people. We're wearing the uniform, which represent the new federal state of China. I think new federal state of China, the proclamation made on the June 4th by Moscow and side by side with Mr. Bennett. I think this is a milestone of this great whistleblower movement, and this is a clear message to the world that the freedom-loving and hard-working Chinese people are determined to establish a democratic China without the CCP. And this world can only be called a free world only when the 1.4 billion Chinese people are free.
Hey, Jack, Can I jump in here just for a second? I just want to ask Ponsan, the hit that the CCP makes all the time and what they've got now, the elites throughout the world mouthing, is that the Chinese people are not ready for freedom. The Chinese people are not ready for democracy. The Chinese people are not ready for the rule of law. You've lived in Australia for a while. Tell us, do you think the Chinese people can handle this? Will China devolve into chaos, anarchy, and civil war if if we took down the firewall and the CCP was gone in 6 months? Tell us what would happen. Are the Chinese people ready for freedom?
Yes, Mr. Bennett. I think the Chinese are more than ready for democracy. And this is a universal value that all freedom-loving people are sharing. Because the CCP has been lying from day one. 71 years is enough. And we've been waiting for this moment. And this is now not only for the Chinese people, but also for all the nations, all the free nations. It's time for us to get united and confront the CCP and take down them. There's no room to compromise. This is a fight back or die moment, and we have to win this battle. We are more than ready for this moment. Mr. Bennett.
Thank you. Jack, go ahead. Continue on.
No, I mean, this is, to me, I feel somewhat like we're sitting in Philadelphia in 1776. Now, that battle wasn't over for another decade, but think about it. We are watching history be made right now. We have such a great honor, Steve and I, to be able to interview these great Chinese patriots. And I think that what I would love everybody to understand, listen to these voices. That is going to be the new China. A fantastic partner for all of humanity, and especially the Chinese people, who we admire and we support and we love, okay? So, Hansen, I just got to, Hansen, I just have to say, your story is incredible, especially the idea that you've been having this in your heart for 22 years and finally getting it out, because the world needs to hear from people like you more and more, and we are just so honored to be able to do it.
Yes, thank you, Jack.
Is there a single message that you'd like to get out to the world? If there was something that you could get out there, what would it be?
Yes, I think now I'm happy to see the awakening in the West, and especially after a series of speeches started from the National Security Advisor, Mr. O'Brien, and concluded by Secretary Pompeo, that it's a key message and action being taken. So what I want to say is the CCP regime never deserved the political legitimacy. And as Mr. O'Brien said, this, I quote, "This miscalculation is the greatest failure of American foreign policy since the 1930s. If I may add something, the recognizing of this CCP regime's legitimacy in the 1970s is one of the mistakes, if it is not the biggest mistake. And now it's time to correct it."
Wow. We agree with you 100%, Ponson. I mean, couldn't have said it better, right, Steve?
That's I gotta tell you, I would love to get you back to Washington, D.C., brother, as soon as possible, because you summed it up better than anybody on Capitol Hill.
I'll be very delighted to be back. You know, if I may add something, if we go back to history, in the year 1972, when Kissinger secretly visited China twice, China was in a chaotic Cultural Revolution. Mao's last disaster, the worst time since CCP stole power in 1949. Millions of people died. What sign did Mr. Kissinger see that CCP could lead China to democracy? So it's definitely a misjudgment of politicians like him and a naive hope that CCP could lead China to democracy. It's totally on the contrary. They are always on the wrong side of history.
Ponson, I'm going to have to cut it on you, but I think he pretty much squared it completely away. Yes, we erred. We believed the Chinese Communist Party. This is the error that the whole world has made, and we're not going to make it in the future because we've got the voices of China speaking out. Back in just a minute.
War Room with Stephen K. Bannon. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
This is Jack Maxey sitting in the driver's seat here on Capitol Hill. War Room Pandemic. This is August 1st, year of our Lord 2020. Another one of our special Saturday editions, Voices from China. Today's episode, new federal state of China confronts CCP across the globe. Over to you, Steve.
I got to tell you, Jack, it's so inspiring to hear these people. But Bonson, and this ties back to Dr. Yan, the precision of which people like Dr. Yan and Bonson think is pretty amazing. He walked through a complete summary of really kind of this Kissingerism, which Mike Pompeo, and he directly tied it to the O'Brien and Pompeo speeches. Pompeo was there to bury Kissingerism, to bury this naive attitude that we could work with the Chinese Communist Party, and the Chinese Communist Party would ultimately bring democracy, rule of law, and freedom to the Chinese people as they increased in material gain. All we've created, as Nixon even knew, he said it, he was afraid that we created a new Frankenstein monster. The Chinese Communist Party does not exist without Western capital, Western technology, and access to Western markets. Now, why does it exist at all? Because the global elites are in business with them. This is what you see President Trump fighting every day on Capitol Hill. It's the lobbyists and the and the financiers. It's what Bill Barr warned against in his speech. Bill Barr called out the companies that were sitting there the other day at this hearing and called them out as collaborators and appeasers and warned them that they should check federal law about being unregistered foreign agents. Okay, in the Democratic Party, nobody laid one glove on them, virtually not one glove on them about China and about their partnership with China. This is the world that we inherit today. Our allies to help take this down are the Chinese people. Once we take down the Chinese Communist Party, you break the back of the business model of the global elite. You break the back of the Party of Davos. And the Party of Davos, as long as it's around and united with the Chinese Communist Party, it's going to continue to enslave the Chinese people and make a serf out of you. If you don't believe so, look around. Your life's not normal in the United States right now. You can't go to church. You can't go to a baseball game. You can't go to your kid's graduation. Your economy, you're living paycheck to paycheck, and right now you got to depend upon a $600 extra cash payment from your unemployment benefits. What kind of world is that? That's not the United States of America. And what we're doing, our elites are kowtowing to the Chinese Communist Party. The CCP lied and people died. The CCP lied and people in China died. The CCP lied and Americans died. And now you're seeing this new federal state of China. What is it? It's like Ponson in Australia. It's Chinese people that are now free that have had a belly full of it. They've had a belly full of it for 30 or 40 years. Look at Ponson. He said, I feel so terrible I didn't stand up after Tiananmen Square. And it's eaten at him for, 30 years? And now he's finally striking back in Australia. That's what's uniting around the world is free people that have unalienable rights from God. They're telling the Chinese Communist Party, no, we don't care if you're in business with Wall Street. We don't care if you're in business with the City of London. We don't care if you're in business with all the global corporations. We are free men and women with unalienable rights given to us by God. And we're going to stand up for those rights. Even if it means we're going to be thrown in concentration camps, even if it means they're going to come after our families, even if it means they're going to make our lives miserable. And that's why the Dr. Yans and the Bonsons, Jack, are to me just such role models or people stand up. And if you don't think this cultural Marxism is spreading, look at Portland, look at Seattle, look at the streets of the United States today. You see it spreading everywhere. We gotta drive a stake in the heart of the beast. Jack, back to you, and I want to give us a program note. Miles Guo is going to join us for the next hour, but I understand we've got another guest, Alice. We're probably going to roll over to the next hour. Miles will join us, but we want to give Alice plenty of time to tell her story. Back to you, Jack.
Yes, Steve, I just wanted to comment on what Ponson said. You talked about the precision of his language. Well, think about it. If you'd spend every night for the last 22 years thinking about how did we get here? How did I suffer? How did my friends die in Tiananmen Square? He's done a lot of thinking. And when you talk to these Chinese dissidents, these voices of freedom who are telling the world what is going on, they're not surprised about the CCP virus. They're not surprised that the Chinese Communist Party lied to the world because they've been getting lied to for 70 years, people. They understand it is just the world itself that is now opening its eyes. I'm going to quickly introduce our next guest, Alice, who is going to be held over through the next segment because we want to hear everything that she has to say. Alice particularly inspired me because I asked her at the start, what was your first thought when you thought, I need to start protesting? Alice, tell me what that was.
Hi, Jackie. The first time I received a notification about the protest, actually my first reaction was a fear. A lot of us have family and relatives in China. I'm very scared the CCP can recognize my identity and then hassle my family members back in China. That's my first reaction. I was almost shivering, and I had never done protesting before. But then my second thought is, I'm not doing this protesting for myself. I'm representing the 1.4 billion Chinese people, my fellow Chinese. CCP officials were not elected by our Chinese people. CCP cannot represent us. I have to get out on the street to speak and voice the opinion of our Chinese people. And what's more, CCP
Alice, hold your thought because we're going to go to a break, but we're keeping you over. We want you to be able to say everything that you want because the world needs to hear it. Okay, people, we'll be back in 1 minute. Maxie sitting in the driver's seat here on the embassy in Capitol Hill. This is August 1st, the year of our Lord 2020. We're about to begin episode 312 in one of our Saturday specials, Voices of China, Today's episode called New Federal State of China Confronts CCP Across the Globe. A shout out to our distribution partners, America's Voice News, Newsmax at Night, and John Frederick's Radio Network. Also G News, which sends this through the firewall in Mandarin for the Chinese people so that they know that we are standing with them. Steve, back to you.
In New York, I've got obviously our guest for the second hour of Miles Guo. We're going to talk about the new federal state. We're also going to talk about the apologists who are trying to stand up for the Chinese Communist Party. But we definitely want to finish with the voice of free Chinese people throughout the world. So, Jack, back to you in the studio. Let's finish with Alice. Then we'll join ourselves back here on the boat where I will talk to Miles Guo about everything that's going on in this freedom movement throughout the world as the Chinese people start to rise up against the totalitarian dictatorship of the Chinese Communist Party.
Alice, it's Jack. I just want to touch on what we were talking about just at the end of the last segment, because I think it's so important and I think it's very illustrative for the world to hear it. Alice told us that her first emotion when she thought, I need to go down in front of the consulate in New York City and protest for the 1.4 billion Chinese people and all the other people of the world. You told me that your first emotion was fear. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I think it's indicative of what kind of a government the CCP is operating.
Oh, the CCP definitely cracked down our speech, and anything you say or you do against them, you will be chased. And I think they definitely have a way to come after you. They will. Now I'm in the U.S., I'm safe, but they will find your family members, whoever is connected with you. They will harass and maybe arrest your family members. You really care about your family members, right? That's even worse than attacking yourself. So that's our worry. Every Chinese face this. That's why a lot of times we even dare not talk to each other about anything against CCP.
Well, the reason I brought it up, Alice, is because it shows for the people of the world the kind of terror under which the Chinese people have to live, right? You do something wrong, it's not just you that they're coming after. They're coming after your dad, your mom, your brother, your aunts, uncles, whoever it is. And this is a concept that is so foreign to the Western mind, right? This idea that the entire family is punished for the actions of one. And what this does for the people listening is this creates a blanket of fear across the entire population and keeps people kind of in an enslaved state of fear. And to me, watching people like Alice just, say enough. I can't tell you guys how much this inspires me and humbles me. Somebody who thinks I'm a patriot and thinks that I care a lot about liberty and will be willing to put myself on the line. Watching you, Alice, and your compatriots do it every day is just something I find overwhelmingly inspiring.
Thank you. I really appreciate the help from War Room, from you, and from Mr. Steve Bannon and President Trump. And when I was in the protest, I really appreciate the support from the police also, because that gave me another reason I could go to the protest. So we were protected. The Chinese Communist Party wouldn't do anything to us directly.
Think about that, people.
And
Alice is saying she appreciates the American police because in New York City, she's actually afraid of the Communist Party. That should be a wake-up call for everybody. Wow, Alice.
Yes, and even my name, Alice, is not my real name. I don't want to expose anything related with my identity.
Well, your secret is safe with us, Alice, and we can't really thank you enough for having come on the show, because every time somebody like you speaks up, there's somebody else out there who wants to speak up and is given the courage to do so. So we are going to try and multiply your voice all over this planet and inspire the Chinese people to take back China, to take this wonderful, beautiful country filled with wonderful people and bring it into the family of nations. Thank you so much, Alice. Steve, back to you.
Thank you, Alice. I got to tell you, very moving. And Jack, I'll toss it back to you in a moment. We've got our guest for the second hour of Miles Grow. First question I've got to ask you, Miles, is something that Dr. Yan said, and we've heard it now a couple of times in the first hour about the new federal state. The interesting thing about Dr. Yan and these people we've had on and we have on every week, they're the little guy. They're the person that society's based upon. It's on their shoulders that it rests. And something that haunts me, and I know it haunts Jack, is that there's a phrase that's been used by these people that go out to protest, and Dr. Yan said that CCP will disappear you, that the Chinese Communist Party will disappear you. And when we've asked them, I said, hey, what does that mean? They said, not only will you disappear, either to a prison, never to be heard of again, or die, be killed, quote unquote, commit suicide, but that all the memory of you will go away, that the memory of your family will go away, that anything you said or did will go away. They will disappear you. And we've heard it a couple times a day. Explain to our American audience, because I think people look at you as someone that's come forward, and with all these people attacking you, you're relentless in your attacks on the Chinese Communist Party. What does it mean? And particularly, what does it mean to a little guy, somebody that maybe doesn't have your resources? What does it mean to the little guy out there when they have the power to disappear you?
Thank you, sir. I really honest come back is the war room. Last week is everything is bigger is happen, and very movement, very touched me. Also, it's new federal state politics everywhere, any country. You look at the all same me. It's the from the garage. It's a Chinese small guy, 老百姓, right?
老百姓.
老百姓. So very, very proud of. They are in a very big, perfect courage. Go to Paris, Canada, Australia, and Japan, is Korea, Australia, everywhere. Also, somebody is driving the car. It's the 6,000 km go there. It's all the family. Some of the man is 75 years old. They go to there. Also, it's very dangerous. CCP try in any country, use any source, threaten everybody. Somebody just before go to the protest inside the mainland family, get the police warning, somebody get arrested and threatened, but they never give up. They go there. This is the last 70 years, first time real Chinese, only for the freedom, rule of the law, is go to the West of the world as personally taking negative, not behind anybody control, is go to anti-CCP protest. Also, you look at this show the world. All the people, all the small guy show the world. We are totally different before you know the Chinese. Because before you see all the protests, that's fake. It's behind is the CCP minority. Also, you can see the people very disappear, very disappear, very smooth, very respect. Very friendly, as get all the country police, respect. Also, they have the rule, new federal state of the fly. They are share the food, share the water. After the protest, they clean all the street. No one garbage there. That's so great. They want to show the world. We are different than CCP. We don't like CCP representative us again. CCP gave you all about the Chinese, the image. It's not true. They want to show you it's true Chinese, true color, and is Chinese what is real want. In the CCP, only 90 million people, the members. Chinese 1.4 billion people. CCP always try is the clean up all the Chinese, everything in the West world. I'm a representative of all the Chinese. I'm the legally, is the organization, is the power. They want to show now they cannot representative us again. They are the power, never get we are what. They are the, this is the regime. The regime is illegal in China, also in Western world. In the international social, this CCP, China Communist Party, cannot legally representative of the Chinese. That's huge. Also, before somebody try, but immediately get disappear and get arrested. This time, all the global people together, because, sir, I must be say, all the Chinese really appreciate Steve K. Bannon. You are given the pluralism. You talk every day, last 3 years, you see radical Chinese, help Chinese get real freedom, get the rule of the law, very emotional. All the Chinese say, Bannon is the only one in the Western world, white people really want the Chinese to have rule of the law and really freedom. All of my family, all of my in the China mainland, have 1.3 million people work with me. They all people send a voice. I really appreciate Stephen K. Bannon. That's real, because last 7 years, no one white guy think CCP in China is illegally regime. You is the first person talk. Another side, you suppose all the Chinese get real freedom and the rule of the law. Example, your help is the whistleblower movement. Your help help the Dr. Yang in Hong Kong not get killed, come to America. You get is the Dr. Yang in America get somebody protect her. You are protect her. All the whistleblower movement, all the people, everybody knows. So this is why Chinese this time first time have the new federal state. They want to take down the CCP, the criminal regime, because they get your courage. All the outside Chinese, you can do, you must be do, you need to do, because too long time you get the CCP in China is the kidnapped. That's you. This is very strong. It's signal you send to all the Chinese. I really appreciate it, sir. That's why you look at the people. I really emotional as it shows the world we are different than CCP. We don't like CCP kidnap in the future again. Also, we are the CCP cannot representative of all the Chinese. That's a very strong information. Thank you, sir.
Let me ask you, Jack, how much time do we have? Do we have enough time? I want everybody
just under 2 minutes.
Pandemic become part of the community today. Want to hear all your comments in the live stream. This is another special. We've got about a minute to go before we got to go to commercial break. But I just want to ask you about the odds. You've got the new federal state. You have the whistleblower movement. You have all these people throughout the world. They seem like they're coming together. But then again, you have Senator Feinstein. You have all these people going, this is a joke. This Chinese Communist Party has the total, absolute control of the second biggest country essentially in the world back in the United States. All the other countries were kowtow to it. They got ultimate power, economic power, financial power. Their partners are Wall Street and the City of London. You have Miles Guo, Steve Bannon, and a bunch of really nice people. These other says they have no chance of taking down the Chinese Communist Party. I tell you what, I want to wait for this answer until we come back for the commercial break, because I want to go, because we're seeing right now the counter reaction to what's going on. You see Senator Dan Coates of Indiana, who is the director of national intelligence under President Trump. He's written basically a running dog piece for the Washington Post, taking the side of the CCP, saying we can never take them down, we can never beat them, right? You've got Dianne Feinstein, right, who's sitting there. She had a driver who was a CCP intelligence agent for 20 years when she was she headed the House Intel Committee. You've got her sitting there going, to see China's great country, CCP's great, they're doing great things, you got to accept them, they're not going around, when her husband's in business with the CCP. You've got all these useful idiots and running dogs in the establishment that are making excuses.
Okay,
we're
Steve.
Turn a minute, Jack, tell us back to you with Miles Guo here on the vessel.
Okay, guys, we're going to pay some bills. Be right back.
Stay tuned.